Welcome back. You're watching Money Control and you're watching Closing Bell on our particular website. Well, I'm Nandita Khemka and joining me is Yatin Mota. Well, Yatin, in the second half of the session, the entire texture of the market changed, the full complexion changed. We hit a fresh high of 22,250 in early trade, but we gave up most of the gains, and fag end selling dragged the Nifty even below that 22,000 mark for the first for a brief period. But we did manage to defend that 22,000 mark and ended above that level, but the cut across broader markets were fairly deep. If you look at the mid cap index, that shed somewhere around 1% or thereabouts, and if you look at the advanced decline ratio as well, that was nearly at 1:2. The top losers, of course, you had the likes of Nifty Bank. Yesterday it was holding up and provided support to the market, but this afternoon we saw the Nifty Bank as well succumbing to selling pressure, and HDFC Bank as well, down somewhere around 1.5% or thereabouts after yesterday's nearly 3% gain. If you look at some of the other sectors that were holding out in a weak market, it was metals, realty, as well as PSU banks. These were the top sectoral gainers. Media pack was weighed down by Yatin, 15% kind of a downtick coming in there. But if you look at some of the Nifty gainers, Tata Steel, SBI, IndusInd Bank, JSW Steel and Tata Consumer, these were some of the names that were on the gaining end. But PSU names like BPCL, NTPC were down in trade today, and Coal India, Yatin, in a matter of 3 sessions, it has shaved off somewhere around 10% or thereabouts. Aside of that, Hero Motor continues to be under pressure. Some data coming out from Vahan, where it showed that two-wheeler sales have slowed down in the month of January, and reacting to that as well. And IT stocks continue to remain under pressure, Yatin. But Yatin, lots of action in the broader end of the markets, even though we ended the day, on the downside, but we have quite a few high flyers as well.
Yes, stocks like ABB post numbers, Sobha Developers, HCL Technologies, all of these stocks were witnessing some buying, but obviously the stock remained volatile through the day. We also had, a few stocks like Raymond that made, a new multi-month high, 6% high for that one. Paytm continued to gain 5% up for that one. Clean Sciences, CAMS, GIC, they were the other stocks which were moving in trade. What did not do well is Z. There were allegations that there is a fund mismatch of nearly 2,000 crores and SEBI is investigating the matter. Obviously, Z said that they are, in touch with the regulator and cooperating with the investigation. Nevertheless, the stock fell, 15% after that news report by Bloomberg. MRPL saw a correction of 7%. Swan Energy, the QIP opened, but the stock corrected 5% down for that one. GMR Infra and Motilal Oswal were the other stocks which corrected in trade.
Right, Yatin, some of the other high flyers, they were doing well in the first part of the session, but Hindalco, that's one stock on my radar, gave up all of its gains. But, this time around, there's positive news flow around this counter. I remember last week when we were talking about Hindalco, there were concerns about the Bay Minute project that had, really wreaked havoc on share prices. It was down 15% that day. But today, the stock opened higher by 3% or thereabouts. However, towards the end of the session, it gave up all of its gains and ended the day in the red. But of course, its US arm Novelis has filed for an IPO with the SEC, and after 17 years of acquiring this company, Hindalco plans to take this particular company public, right? But it has Novelis has submitted its confidential filing for an IPO, and the process will be expedited once SEC is done with its review process, and it could take somewhere around 12 to 18 months or thereabouts. It will be a secondary sale of shares by Hindalco, which means Novelis will not be receiving any of the proceeds from the share sale. And according to CNBC TV18 sources, Hindalco is looking at raising somewhere around $1 billion via this IPO at a valuation of $15 billion for Novelis. And the key question in everybody's mind is how much stake really the promoters are looking to dilute, and how would they really use the funds, because domestic business of Hindalco is not in need of any cash at the current juncture. So whether it will be like a one-time dividend payout to shareholders, or are they looking at inorganic expansion or something like that? And that is something that really the street is breaking their head over as to what really purpose this particular fundraise serves for Hindalco. And of course, there's also concerns that Novelis's peer, it has a listed peer in the US or listed on the NYSE, and even if foreign investors want to play Hindalco, they will go and buy shares of Novelis instead of coming and buying shares of Hindalco. So these are some of the questions that the street is really scratching their heads over, and analysts also believe that this development is a sentimental positive for the stock, but they don't really see any case for a re-rating at the current juncture when it comes to Hindalco, Yatin.
Absolutely. This is one stock which opened strong, but yes, pared the gains along with the markets for trade today. But what was doing well and holding out in trade was ABB. The shares surged as much as 12% in intraday. However, the stocks ended nearly 10% higher. Obviously, the quarterly numbers were better than street expectations. In fact, ABB's quarterly margin came in at 15%, 15.1% to be precise, versus the level of 12.5% last year. Obviously, earnings were good, but the conference call probably gave more wings to the rally for ABB today. In fact, the management in the conference call said that data centers, railway, metro, rails, electronics and electrification of the domestic market could probably a big opportunity area for them. In fact, ABB believes that the return on capital employed, which has reached a record level of 21% currently, should improve further. On the margin front, the guidance was quite good, because as the volumes pick up, probably the margins also will see some uptick, given the fact that the operating leverage and better utilization will help the overall operating performance. And domestic markets are growing much faster than export markets for ABB, and probably the management will focus more on the domestic orders versus the export orders. Yes, the current order book is nearly 12,500 crores, which supports overall growth moving ahead. But the margin commentary probably raised the street expectations, and hence the rally in the share price today despite weak market conditions.
All right, of course, very strong rally coming in. Of course, ABB reacting to it, very strong outlook painted by the management. But the next stock on my list is Campus Activewear. Now, this stock hasn't really been doing all this well, given the fact that the earnings have, really disappointed investors consistently. Last 4 to 5 quarters, profits have, not impressed. In fact, even in the third quarter, profits slumped 50% on a YY basis, right? But today, some bit of relief, because the stock saw a good rally on the back of a block deal, 1.3% equity exchange hands, and the block deal was worth 100 crore rupees. As I was mentioning, numbers haven't been all that great. We'll have to watch out for data, Yatin, as to who are the buyers into the stock and whether or not some big names are betting on the stock or not. When it comes to numbers, even though profit disappointed, revenues on a quarter-on-quarter basis saw a good jump of 82% or thereabouts. That was, on the back of festive demand, robust online sales, and the likes, and higher demand from key distribution markets as well aided sales growth on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Even the gross margins saw a good expansion in the third quarter, that too on a quarter-on-quarter basis on the back of lower input cost. The shares, in fact, the shares have been reacting to negative news flow in the sense that, it has been grappling with high competition from established players like Bata, Relaxo, and given the fact that it caters to, affordable segment, mid-luxury segment, it can't really pass on the impact of higher raw material cost to customers. That would mean a loss in market share. So the company has been grappling with all that, and the company had, earlier quarters said that they would expect some bit of improvement from the second half onwards, but that really, at least when you look at the profit picture, that hasn't really shaped up in this quarter at least. So things not looking all that great, but after today's block deal, we'll have to see which are the names that are buying into the counter. Aside of that, Kotak Equities had recently come out with a report. They had an ad rating on the stock with a target price of 290 rupees a piece. Yatin, I also want to say that the stock is below its IPO price of 292 rupees a share, right? But as I was mentioning, Kotak is expecting the counter to hit 290 pretty soon, and they believe that the Indian sports and athleisure footwear segment will see a good growth going forward because of its low penetration in the Indian market. But of course, let's see whether or not things improve from here on or not, because the stock has been consistently looking at losses. If you look at the 1 month chart, 3 month chart, 6 month charts, you will see that the stock has been in a consistent downtrend.
Correct, and the shares of campus had rallied post the IPO, and the correction from the top has been quite severe.
Yeah.
And as Nandita was mentioning, still below the IPO price. Let's see if earnings pick up and really there is an investor interest moving ahead for the shares of campus.
All right, well, those were the shares on our radar this afternoon. But let's hope, Yatin, that tomorrow, we see a good day for the market, given the fact that we saw the Nifty swing in a range of 250 points in the last 2 hours of trade. But let's see how things pan out tomorrow. But for now, it's a goodbye from me and Yatin. Thanks a lot for tuning in. You guys stay tuned to Money Control for all your other news and updates.